Lord Chaitanya's internal reasons for coming to this world, which are three: to understand the unique sweetness and greatness of Radha's love for him, to taste his own sweetness as Radha experiences it, and to experience the supreme bliss Srimati Radharani feels in loving him. So, as I told the devotees, that if the class was how we're not this body, then I'll speak about that. But the class is all about Srimati Radharani, so there you go. So since I had prepared for that already, and since I was told I could pick any verse, I thought, okay, let's speak about Srimati Radharani. So here goes. So this is the, is it sharing? Didn't share. Oh, can you see it?
Yes, Prabhu.
You see the verse?
Yes. CCRD 4162.
Okay. So the Bengali is Gopi. Well, first, Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the verse that they gave me on Monday, and I'm giving to you. Gopi Ganera Premara Rudha Bhavanama Vishuddha Nirmala Prema Kabu Nahe Kama. And Gopi Ganera means the gopis. Premera, we know what that means. Love. Rudra Bhava means Rudra Bhava. Nama, the name. Vishuddha, these are all well-known words, right? Pure. Nirmala, spotless. Prema again means love. Kabu, at any time. Nahe is not, and Kama means lust. The love of the gopis is called Rudha Bhava. It is pure and spotless. It is not at any time lust. Purport. As already explained, the position of the gopis in their loving dealings with Krishna is transcendental. Their emotion is called Rudha Bhava. Although it is apparently like mundane sex, one should not confuse it with mundane sexual love, for it is pure and unadulterated love of Godhead. So my experience with this chapter, so this chapter is the internal reasons that Lord Chaitanya appeared. The chapter before that, chapter 3 of Adi Lila, is the external reasons. And to be honest, when I first read this chapter many moons ago, I was probably 19 years old. I couldn't relate to chapter 4. I could relate to chapter 3 because chapter 3 is the internal reasons, the external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So you get verses like in text 40, the religious practice of the age of Kali is to broadcast the glories of the holy name. Only for this purpose has the Lord in a yellow color descended as Lord Chaitanya. So I was a Sankirtan devotee, I was a brahmachari, and my whole life was book distribution and being involved in the Sankirtan movement. So I could really relate to chapter 3, but that was and then that was called external, but internal, which even sounds like more advanced. I was like, Vishnu, 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 almost, because it just didn't connect, especially at 19 years old. I couldn't relate so much to, Lord Chaitanya's internal reasons of trying to experience the love of Srimati Radharani. I was more focused on Sankir, or like this verse, which is a famous verse that's quoted in the 3rd chapter. Krishna Varnam Trisa Krishna Sangopangasta Parsanam Jagyai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasa. Right? That in this age, people who are smart, who are intelligent, they worship the Lord who comes with his associates. How? By performing Sankirtan. So that was like that was what I thought Lord Chaitanya was all about. When I read chapter 4, I kind of had to scratch my head, a bit like, okay, I guess so. But then I read this letter that Prabhupada wrote to Rameshwar Prabhu in 1974. And he said, and so this really pacified my heart and helped me make the connection between chapter 3 and chapter 4. The explanation given by Rameshwar, no, this was actually written to Nandalal, but it says, the explanation given by Rameshwar that Sankirtan is Lord Chaitanya's Leela, which he compares to the gopis trying to engage others in Krishna's service, is the correct understanding. So then I kind of went, okay, I get it. Yeah, that's great. That I could relate to. Now, also, in the late 70s, we would hear, there was no internet. There was no phone calls were $2 a minute, right? When you wanted to find out when you were on traveling Sankirtan and you wanted to find out if it was EKADASI, you would make a collect person-to-person call to Mr. EKADASI. And the temple would pick up and say, no, he's not here, he's coming tomorrow. Or yes, he's here today. And that's how we would find out if it was EKADASI or not. Because we didn't want to pay the $2 a minute for the call. So maybe some of you have heard of this, maybe some of you haven't, but in 1976, in the summer, in Los Angeles, there was something called the Gopi Bhava Club. And these were devotees who were reading Prabhupada's books, but they were focusing only on the sections that spoke specifically about Srimati Radharani's and the Gopis' Leela with Krishna, and especially the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so if you haven't heard of it, here's a little background information. This is Pradyumna Prabhu speaking, and he said, in Los Angeles, some people said to me that this Gita with Krishna and Arjuna is lower. They have no taste for that. These people say, we're interested in Krishna and the gopis, the higher thing. So he told that to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, who says this? Bring them here immediately, whoever says this. What are their names? So they were brought into Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada said, so you're interested in gopi things? They said, yes. Then some discussion went on. And then someone said, isn't it true in Goloka Vrindavan, the position of the gopis is the highest? The gopis are higher than a cow, for instance, or a blade of grass? Prabhupada said, no difference, no difference. And then Pradyumna replied, but Prabhupada, between a gopi and a cow? Prabhupada said, no difference. For you, no difference. And that's a very key word there. For you, no difference. I guess, how many of you have been chanting for more than 5 years? Can you raise your hand or something, or let us know? How many of you have been chanting for more than 5 years? I would assume many people here, yeah? So imagine 1976, most of the devotees joined within 5 years, some of them in 1 or 2 years, So therefore, Prabhupada said, for you, no difference. For you, no difference. Maybe when one makes some advancement, yes, okay, difference between a cow and a gopi. But he was making the point they're both on the spiritual platform. So for you, no difference. And then Prabhupada wrote a letter. Here in Los Angeles, we have found that there is a group of about 40 devotees who privately meet to discuss the intimate pastimes, artificially thinking that they can enter into the understanding of the gopis prematurely. This will create havoc in our society. And the result will be that if this is allowed to go on, our preaching work will be greatly hampered. These premature desires to understand the Leela of Krishna is due to mundane sex life desire, as we have seen amongst many of the Babajis and Sahajiyas in Vrindavan. And as it turned out, apparently, there were some people, members of the Gopi Bhava Club, who had children out of wedlock, and they were associating with the Babaji in Vrindavan. So, and then this is where Prabhupada said that famous saying, first deserve, then desire. But then he also said something really important, just like, for you, no difference. This is another really important statement. He says, it is not forbidden, but it is not for neophytes. It is not forbidden, but it is not for neophytes. And even when he was in the airport leaving Los Angeles at that time, he turned to one devotee, and he was balancing this out. And he said something really very entertaining, you could say, very sweet. And he said, it's not that we're boycotting the gopis, right? You can imagine, going out with your signs, going around the Brooklyn Temple, no, or the Bhakti Center, no more gopis, no more, said it's not that we're boycotting the gopis. And in terms of our preaching, Prabhupada says in Madhya Lila, the word rahastane in a secluded place is very significant. Talks about Krishna and his pastimes, especially his pastimes in Vrindavan, and his dealings with the gopis are very confidential. They are not subject matter for public discussion because those who have no understanding of the transcendental nature of Krishna's pastimes always commit great offenses, thinking Krishna to be an ordinary human being and the gopis ordinary girls. So we don't want people that we're sharing Krishna consciousness with to commit an offense. Following the principle of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who never discussed the dealings between Krishna and the gopis publicly, to discuss the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan in public. For the general public, Sankirtan is the most effective method to awaken Krishna consciousness. So, Prabhupada had to balance our adhikar, our eligibility, with the fact that, we're not boycotting the gopis. It's the highest understanding of bhakti. But it can be a very neophyte way. And, Prabhupada would say different things at different times. For example, right in the very first purport of the Bhagavatam, he says that within the past 500 years, many erudite scholars and acharyas like Jiva Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Vishwanath Chakrabarti, Vallabhacharya, and many other distinguished scholars, even after the time of Lord Chaitanya, made elaborate commentaries on the Bhagavatam. And the serious student would do well to attempt to go through them to better relish the transcendental message. But then he also wrote in 1973 a letter. Brahmananda Swami has read me your letter regarding the students there reading other books. I request you to stop this practice. So I thought that was also interesting because for those of you who may not know the history also, up until about 1989, 1990, for English readers, there practically weren't any books, especially books by the Goswamis or books about higher books by Vishwanath Chakrabarti, Thakur, etc. In English. There was a devotee named Kusakrata Prabhu who really changed a lot by just publishing those books, and then later, of course, Bhanu Swami and others. But they weren't really available. And look at the world today. Before Monday, I gave that class. I just did a little online research. You can get, the Govinda Lailamrita, for example. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked Bhaktivinoda Thakur if he could print the Govinda Lilamrita, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, yes, one copy. You have the eligibility to understand it. And now you can get it online for free as a PDF. Or if you live in India, for 637 rupees, you can actually get the book delivered by Amazon. Probably more, I think it's quite a bit more expensive in America. So, times have changed, but where these literatures are now just, easily available. So what I thought we would do with the rest of this talk. So that's the caution that we should exercise. And as I was saying, there's so many available. One of the very famous Babajis in Vrindavan, I think he's passed away now, in Radhakund. All of his books are available for free as PDF downloads. I noticed that also, downloads. I also noticed that. So the times, as Bob Dylan said, the times there are changing. So I thought what a nice way to talk about Srimati Radharani is talk about Srila Prabhupada's presentation of Srimati Radharani, because it's very sweet. It's the way Prabhupada talks about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis and Srimati Radharani. It's very inspiring. I having lived in Vrindavan for over 20 years, one thing that I noticed really quite clearly is when Prabhupada talks about the gopis and Srimati Radharani, one of his main focuses is on their selfless service, how they've given up everything to serve Krishna because they love him so much. And what I noticed in other parts of Vrindavan, and especially in Radhakund, and again, not to criticize, but just to point out that it was more in the mood of relishing the pastimes and relish. We also relish, and I'm sure they also talk about the sacrifice, but in terms of emphasis, Prabhupada's emphasis was on the selfless service. And it's something that we could hear about and apply in our lives. Not that we're the gopis, but apply that to try to become selfless servants, as opposed to just the idea of relishing the pastime. So Prabhupada's presentation about Srimati Radharani is really wonderful. Let's see, what do I want to say next? Well, just a few more things on the caution. Prabhupada once said that, when we hear about Srimati Radharani and we don't hear from the right source, we get the idea of mundane sex life. And he quotes this, that whenever I hear the name Radha, I always think of a barber's wife whose name is Radha, that some man thinks like that. And in the preface to the Krishna book, Prabhupada writes that in the Western countries, when someone sees the cover of a book like Krishna, he immediately asks, who is Krishna? Who is the girl with Krishna? But maybe it's significant that if you read the rest of the preface, it only talks about Krishna, it doesn't talk about that girl, Srimati Radharani. And another last example of the caution was Prabhupada told us that we should show Krishna's feet when dressing the Radha Krishna deities, but we should not show Srimati Radharani's. Okay, but now let's talk about hearing about Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that Srimati Radhika is the teacher of the mellows of conjugal love. The pure love between Radha and Madhava is meant to be discussed and contemplated. And not only that, but Prabhupada in the Krishna book writes that hearing about Radha and Krishna's pastimes helps us overcome lust. Right? He says, Sukadeva Goswami concludes this episode of the Ras Leela by pointing out that if a person hears from the right source about the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis, who are expansions of his energy, then they will be relieved of the most dangerous type of disease, namely lust. In other words, one who actually hears the Rasa Leela will become completely freed from the lusty desires of sex life and elevated to the highest level of spiritual understanding. And then Prabhupada writes, the conditioned soul should hear the Ras Leela dance from an authorized spiritual master. So that's what we're going to do now. Hear about Prabhupada's presentation about Srimati Radharani. So something from his books, his lectures, his talks. So first of all, if you think of the books that Prabhupada published, so early in the movement, he published Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. There's so much about Srimati Radharani there. He published in the next year, 1968, the Krishna book, so much about Srimati Radharani. 69, Nectar of Devotion came out, so much about Radha and Krishna. So, In 1966, in New York, Prabhupada spoke about Radharani in this way. He said, because this was their first Janmastami and Radhastami, so he said, that Krishna, you have to fast all day because Krishna is very strong and hard. But on Radhastami, you only have to fast until noon because Radharani is soft and kind. What a nice way to get us thinking about Srimati Radharani. She's soft and kind. He also said at that time, he said that she is the best devotee of Krishna. Why? Because she loves him the most. And then he went on at that same time to talk about how Radharani was interested in the welfare of all devotees and that we can pray to her. He said, you can't go directly to Krishna, but if Krishna's devotee is pleased with you, then he or she will recommend you to Krishna, and Krishna will be obliged to give you his mercy. And he said, this is especially true if you get the mercy of Srimati Radharani. And then in the Nectar of Devotion, in the category of attracting Krishna, Prabhupada writes that to perform devotional service means, listen to this, to perform devotional service means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani. Just looking at the clock here, okay. And the devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. In other words, devotional service is not an activity of the material world, it is directly under the control of Radharani. So we're all doing devotional service, right? And we're in different ways, at different, maybe throughout the day or at different times of the day. All that devotional service is under Radharani's control. So being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. And that point about Radharani being soft and kind, in the Nectar of Devotion under compassion, it says, instead of offering obeisances to Krishna, devotees offer obeisances to his compassionate nature. Actually, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is very difficult to approach him. But the devotees taking advantage of his compassionate nature, which is represented by who? By Srimati Radharani. They always pray to Radharani for Krishna's compassion. Another time, Prabhupada, he said that Radharani is Krishna's tender-hearted female counterpart. And he said, it's so easy to pray to Radharani, just chant Hare Krishna. All those Hares is Radharani. He also talked about her being the queen of Vrindavan and that she has the power to attract even Krishna. Also, Nectar Devotion. Krishna attracts everyone, but devotional service attracts Krishna. The symbol of devotional service in the highest degree is Radharani. Krishna is called Madan Mohan, which means he is so attractive that he can defeat the attraction of thousands of cupids. But Radharani is still more attractive, for she can attract Krishna. Therefore, devotees call her Madan Mohan Mohini, the attractor of Cupid. And just a little bit more, and then we'll take comments, questions. But in 1968, Prabhupada gave the Radhastami lecture in Montreal. He first gave some philosophy. He said that when we are engaged by regulated principles in the worship of Radha Krishna, that is called Vidhi Marg. And actually, when you are on the love platform, that is called Rag Marg. So without Vidhi Marg, if someone wants to learn the Rag Marg immediately, that is foolishness. That is foolishness. Nobody can pass MA examination without going through regulated principles of primary school and college. So therefore, I do not indulge in the discussions of Radha and Krishna so easily. Rather, go on with regulated principles at the present moment. Gradually, you become purified. So we shall await for the fortunate moment when we are liberated. Then we shall understand Radha Krishna Pranaya Prakritir. But having said all that, then he asks for a harmonium. And he starts singing Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dayate. And he starts explaining the verse. He said, she's so dear to Krishna. Everyone is trying to love Krishna, but Krishna is trying to love somebody. how great she is. Just try to understand. The whole world, the whole universe are living entities who are trying to love Krishna, Krishna Prema, but Krishna Prema is so valuable. Krishna Prema is so valuable, but Krishna is after Radharani. Just see how Radharani is great. Try to understand her greatness. She's so great, we have to offer our respect. And how is she? Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite. Taruni means young girls. You will see the pictures. They're all young girls. She is the most beautiful. She is in Gokula Taruni Mandala Mahite, talking about this. She always dresses herself so nicely that Damodar Krishna becomes attracted to her beauty. So the only lovable object of Krishna she is the only lovable object of Krishna, and she is the queen of Vrindavan. You will find in Vrindavan, if you go to Vrindavan, everyone is worshipping Radharani. Okay, I think there's more I could read, but I think you get the idea. So that was the class I was given. Somebody said, "Why are you talking so much about Radharani?" I said, "That's the verse that they gave me. What can I do?" Questions, comments?
Thank you very much, Vraj Vihari Prabhu, for the wonderful class. Would anyone in the temple room like to speak? Jai Jai Nitai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Vraj Vihari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Jani Prabhu.
Wonderful class. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the caution, all the pastimes leading up to it, interactions, the history, different things with Srila Prabhupada. Very, very instructive. I have one question and one comment. The comment was just, I was remembering as you were speaking on this topic of Shivaram Raj's book, Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, and how he explains this very nicely. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book, but really wonderful offering with the idea of being able to hear Krishna and Radha's pastimes, but approaching it with proper caution and understanding one's eligibility or adhikar for hearing. So very nice. And the question again, you were talking about the internal reasons. I'm wondering if you could repeat those again, because I know in going through this chapter different times, it's not always so easy to get. There's a very subtle distinction between them. So I was wondering if you could just expand on that a little bit.
Well, I don't know if I can expand it. I can repeat it, but you're right. There's subtle distinctions, and that's why it's hard to remember all three of them. Okay, so the first one is to understand the unique sweetness of Radha's love for him. Okay. The next one is to taste his own sweetness as Radha experiences it. And the third is to experience the happiness, the bliss that Radharani feels in loving him. So they're very similar. Yeah. And you mentioned the word Adhikar. This is also interesting because, we have devotees in this class today who've been chanting Hare Krishna for 50 years. And, we have people visiting the Bhakti Center who've been, chanting for 50 minutes. Right. And so everyone had pretty much the same Adhikari back in the 70s. They were all chanting 4 or 5 years. But now and as long as we continue to do outreach, there'll again be newer and newer people who, so how to find that balance of having a facility for older, devotees who have done well with the Narta Nivritti, to understand and learn more about these parts of our tradition, which is our tradition, and at the same time, not prematurely expose devotees who might not understand them appropriately. So that's always just hopefully that'll be an ongoing challenge for as long as devotees in this world exist, because that means we're still making people devotees. I hope that answered your question. But if you want me to talk about the distinction, we'd have to go through that chapter more carefully.
No problem. That was very good, and thank you. Really.
Other questions, comments?
Prabhu,
Really, what?
elucidate.
You went back on mute.
Haribol. Haribol, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Wonderful subject matter, of course, to be addressed with discretion. What is the two things I wanted to just ask as an explanation of terms, the semantics behind it? Wouldn't all of these things that you just previously mentioned about the different types of ras or relationship, wouldn't that ultimately be under the umbrella of intimacy? Just intimacy, what intimacy is. And then also, and on the opposite end of the spectrum here, Prabhupada made a statement, and if you could just unpack it a little bit, by reading these pastimes, of course, at the stage that they were at, one putrefies, but does not purify. Because they said, Prabhupada, we're reading these aren't the pastimes of Radharani and Krishna purifying. He goes, for you, they are putrefying. So if you could unpack one and then talk about the concept of just plain intimacy.
Well, plain intimacy, but like for example, here in Juhu, they're going through the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So to go through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when you come into the more intimate pastimes, you read them because it's part of the book. But what Prabhupada's concern was that they were only reading those things, and especially, I think he got very upset. It sounded like he got very upset. Pradyumna Prabhu said when he said, "Well, Bhagavad Gita is lower," something like that. I mean, Lord Chaitanya himself relished again and again the seventh canto of the Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, for example, and I believe also Dhruva Maharaj. But I know for a fact Prahlad Maharaj. So that's Lord Chaitanya, who's Radha and Krishna combined. And he's saying, he's so what to speak of us, right? So that was the specific concern that, and what to speak of just not having practically any adhikar eligibility, for really focusing only on those things. But I'm not sure how to define intimacy. Someone maybe can look up in the dictionary. But,
no, not how to define intimacy. Not how to define intimacy, but how that the particular this relationship between the absolute feminine and the absolute masculine is present, and that there is. We tend to say it's like what was said by I can't remember who it was, but said also by reading these you will assuage. Yeah, you will assuage the lust in your own heart. So there's two things. One is this voyeurism, and why shouldn't we mind our own business? Quite frankly, Prabhupada was like that. This is none of your business type of thing right now. And number two, there's the opposite end, which is the only way to get out of lusting for the material world is to understand that higher divine eros. I'm sorry to use these words, but that's what comes up.
Yeah. And I hope it was clear. Prabhupada wasn't saying it's forbidden, but he just said, it's like I saw one time somebody wrote a Vyas Puja offering to Prabhupada. It was so nice. One of the lines I still remember: Krishna Prem for the simple and sane. And so he was just, what happened in 1976 was just obviously, not appropriate. for a person now who's chanting 50 years and to want to appropriately understand more about Radha and Krishna's pastimes. But I wanted to and today I just wanted to present the way Prabhupada presented Srimati Radharani, and I hope that was clear. That the only thing I was doing was reading from Prabhupada's own statements about that, because I find them to be very, I can't think of a better word than sweet. Nityananda Chandrabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There's a very significant purport, last purport of the 7th chapter of Canto 2. Both Prabhupada and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, they make the same point. And so I can read a little bit of it if you like.
As you like.
So he says, the science of learning a subject matter seriously is different from the sentiments of fanatics. Fanatics or fools may consider the Lord's activities in relation to the external energy to be useless for them, and they may falsely claim to be higher participants in the internal energy of the Lord. But factually, the Lord's activities in relationship with the external energy and the internal energy are equally good. On the other hand, those who are not completely free from the clutches of the Lord's external energy should devoutly hear regularly about the activities of the Lord in relationship with the external energy. They should not foolishly jump to the activities of the internal energy, falsely attracted by the Lord's internal potential activities like his Rasa Lila. The cheap reciters of the Bhagavatam are very much interested in the Lord's internal potency, and the pseudo-devotees absorbed in material enjoyment falsely jump to the stage of liberated souls and thus fall deeply into the clutches of the external energy. Some of them think that to hear about the pastimes...
Yes, so it's... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And so he continues basically saying that, some may think that the pastimes means lifting of the hill, but it has nothing to do with, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. That's not pastime. Only pastime is... so the rest of the Bhagavatam, which disentangles us from our material condition, that's all pastime.
Mhm.
And he says if we are not liberated, then there's a preference to hear more of Bhagavad Gita, first canto, second canto, continue on.
Thank you. And it's always like this balance, and we're not boycotting the gopis. And Vrindavan is a especially sweet place. And everything you just said is totally right as well. So that's why we say it's good to have some guidance, people who know us well and know where we're at in our Krishna consciousness, and can suggest good approaches to how we hear and chant about Krishna. We still have 2, 3, 4 minutes. Any other questions, comments?
See, Vraj Vihari Prabhu, you once said you're comfortable with silence.
Yes.
Yes. Ruin that jive.
No problem. Just seeing if anyone, someone says, a nice article by Jayadvaita Swami. Prabhupada said to Jayadvaita Swami that he liked this article very much. Very good. Who is that girl with Krishna? Nice. And yes, Saurabh.
Hare Krishna, lots of love, devotion, and respect to you and all of the devotees. I wanted to thank you for the class and just wanted to share. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radha, Jai Jai Shri Radha. I thought it's an amazing class that you just gave because I've probably been chanting from when I was really young and going to the mandir and so forth. And at some point, without any explanation, the love for Radha comes within the heart. And I don't know, I was just thinking that sometimes it's Sri Krishna, he sees our love for him so much, and he gives us the ability to have love for Radha. And the other way, sometimes our love for Radha is so much, you can ask him, please introduce me to Sri Krishna. Please allow me to get closer to Krishna. All of this happens within the heart, and our sincerity is what does the magic. And I see this in all of the devotees and all of the speakers, and I'm just full of gratitude. So thank you. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. And Nityananda Chandra, we have one more minute.
I just got in the mail a nice book. It's pictures from Vrindavan. You can see the Radha in the inside cover. And
Nice.
just give you a little darshan. It's just pictures of devotees in Vrindavan. This is by a devotee that lives in Portugal. Paulo Sega, also Sega G.
Nice. Wonderful.
Friends with Raghunath. If there's a picture, you can. One of them's got Dina Bandhu there, and a few others that we may know. But
Yes, if you want to hear Krishna's pastimes, you can listen to Dina Bandhu Prabhu.
Oh my God, yes, he's the best.
Yeah.
What's the
Well,
title?
now we're going to get the darshan of Radharani and Lord Krishna in about 10, 20 seconds, right?
Yes.
Nitai Chand, what's the title of the book?
Vrindavan.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Easy to remember that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, for giving me a chance to speak, Prabhu.
Thank you, Vraj Vihari Prabhu, for always speaking on delicate subject matters so nicely and clearly.
Hare Krishna.
Darshan time, dear devotees, please turn on your cameras if you can. Or if you can't. Is it can't, or chant, chant, chant? That's the choice. So nice to see your bright faces.
Shishirana Murali Dar, Lord Chandra Bhagavan, Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can obtain pure devotion of service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering, obtain the mercy of Krishna. And my only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus sound. I tap into his lotus feet as a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, the ecstatic flame emanates. By him, he destroys joy. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy. The friend of the corn, the Lord, and us your devotees. All master be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your favor spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter at your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Temple Room Ki Jai.
Right.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to the Afterglow. Would anyone like to ask a question or share a reflection? Please unmute yourself. Madan Gopal Prabhu, Hare Krishna to you. So good to be in your association. Would you like
Hare
to
Krishna, my obeisances to all of you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madan Gopal Prabhu. That was very auspicious. Thank you for blessing us. Dear devotees, anyone who would like to speak in line with Guru Sadhu and Shastra? Okay. Ram, you want to speak in line with Guru Sadhu and Shastra? Ram, say something. Okay. Yeah. All right. Ram is wondering if Annabelle and Isaiah are available to chant Hare Krishna loudly and attentively. Annabelle, Hare Krishna. Isaiah Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Thank you very much, Annabelle and Isaiah. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan. Thank you very much, dear devotees. This is our Vrindavan, our digital Vrindavan every morning. Neha is raising her hand. Neha?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Today is Satila Ekadasi, but should we eat sesame seeds today?
That's above.
Yes.
Wait, Nitai Chand?
Yes, you're supposed to eat sesame seeds on Satila Kadashi.
Is that just for Neha or for everyone?
For everyone.
For everyone. Okay, good.
Yeah, give out sesame seed candy.
But if you do
What about the
nirjala,
others?
but if you do full fasting, like not even not drinking water, do you have to take sesame seed also?
No. But you can give somebody some sesame seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Jai. Bhima Prabhu, what are your Ekadashi vows today?
I think I'll read one verse from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, and actually understand it.
Nice, Bhima Prabhu. Very ambitious. Very ambitious. Okay, we love you. We need you. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.